Welcome boys and girls, Costin here with a discussion about Ungrim Ironfist in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. Most of the dwarves do fancy themselves with ranged units, and there's a bunch of good reasons for that. A combination of Iron Drakes, Thunderers, or even getting Trollhammer torpedoes will go a long way in your campaign. Not that, you can always use the good old gyrocopters or quarrelers or artillery. But Ungrim plays differently. He's focused on slayers and he's focused on melee in particular. He gets a construction cost of minus 75% for slayer buildings. He gets a recruitment cost of minus 50% for slayers, giant slayers, and doomseekers. And he has a speed bonus of 10% for infantry units. While of course dwarves are not really going to be the fastest units in the world, that is still a pretty decent benefit in terms of the speed capability of slayers. And on top of that, you also have to consider the kind of benefits that come when you are playing with Ungrim on a Lord level. And this is what Thrones of Decay really ultimately changed for Ungrim. Because before Thrones of Decay, there was not necessarily a whole lot of value in playing him. At best, you could just benefit from him kind of leading a generic army, but after Thrones of Decay, things got a bit different. For starters, I believe that Journey's End was not really working correctly. So now with Journey's End for Slayer units, it does work correctly. Melee attack for Slayer units, minus 25% upkeep for Slayers, Giant Slayers, all that, and I believe there's also Slayer Ward that you can use. And then further, you do also have different skills that you can use right here. So first off, you do have Death Blow. So if he gets to very low HP, he's gonna start increasing, doing a significant amount of damage. And then ultimately getting to extremely daring Death Blow, which gives 15% physical resistance, melee attack, and just doing a huge ton of damage. So Ungrim is an extremely good duelist for the dwarves. In fact, because he is a slayer, he's unbreakable, and he is also heavily armored for a slayer because he is a slayer king. So as a result of that, he is going to be very difficult for anyone to actually defeat in a battle. And then you get weapon strength benefits for the entire army against vampire counts, against greenskins, against chaos if you want to go for that. There's of course some other benefits as well, like I'm not sure Oath of Forging is necessarily that useful. But then his special skill line gives him Worthy Foe, right there. Causes fear, causes terror. Like Worthy Foe, it's like, yeah, you get base weapon damage, armor-piercing weapon damage, and melee attack if the terror-causing unit is in range. So if you're dealing with someone that can generate terror, yeah, they're going to have some issues. Then you have bonus versus large for Slayers, Slayer Pirates, Giant Slayer units, and bonus versus large for Ungrim as well. Then Demon Slayer, Ward Save, melee attack, and, melee attack when fighting against warriors of Chaos, Norsca, and Demons, and then for the entire army as well. And then Doomseeker, casualty replenishment for Slayers, and this is where we'll also talk about like Journey's End being upgraded as well as getting more ward save, and then the Slayers to Me skill line. So that's reducing upkeep, giving missile resistance, missile strength, and just making things better for Slayers in general. Now, he shares that, of course, with a Demon Slayer Lord. So a Demon Slayer Lord also has that skill line, as well as some of these things as well. Though he is missing Glorious Death, I believe. But that's where Journey's End comes in, right? So Journey's End works a bit differently than regards that. And he just flat out is better than a Demon Slayer. Quite importantly to note is that he also has the ability of recruiting a Dragon Slayer from the very beginning, and he also has the ability of recruiting Slayers from the very beginning of his campaign, which is a more substantial benefit than one might think, because it's not just about the units themselves. You do start with a runesmith, so you may not necessarily benefit that much from getting the building that increases unit capacity, local recruitment capacity. You, in fact, might want to go for a master engineer, really. But the tangible benefit is he can get access to Ungrim Ironfist quickly. And then if you do the Gotrek and Felix quest battle, doing that without gyrocopters can be a bit of a messy affair. The Slayers against Demonettes, I'm not sure who would win that very easily. Usually I do it with all kinds of different armies. But you can get Gotrek and Felix. So that means you end up with a huge number of casualty or replenishment heroes. So while your armies will take more damage than regular Dwarven armies, you will be able to replenish the casualties that you take in battle far easier. On top of that, your initial foe is kind of a joke to deal with. And this is kind of the risk that you do run in an Ungrim campaign, because you do have these provinces, these two provinces, there's a lot of distance between the settlements here, and you might be tempted to go after Skarsnik, but that's more or less Forgrim's problem, though you might wish to help him out dependent on faction potential. Your main target is going to be Azag, really, because he's usually going to declare war on you, and he's usually going to try and besiege Karakadrin. It is easy enough to defend Karakadrin from a siege if you just recruit a couple of units there, like a lord, a couple of units. Once Cray of Assembly adds Neferat into the game, I imagine that's also going to shift the campaign around even further, and I'm wondering exactly how they're going to handle Azag, because he is wearing the crown of Nagash at the moment in the game. So Lord Zantimes has made a lot of promises, and I suppose we'll find out exactly how those promises will unfold. From my perspective, it is good to keep an eye on what Forgrim is doing and lend him aid if needed, because you can defeat Skarsnik very, very quickly. You may also want to deal with Vlad von Karstein, though usually the Empire will have full control on that situation. It's a bit of a shame that you actually start with bad relationships with Zufbar, because you could actually, if you could get the Confederation going with Zufbar, that would give you a lot of potential. In contrast to Ungrim, Forgrim can actually do so in his campaign. So that's one of the downsides that Ungrim has in his campaign. You can absolutely spend a good amount of time going around and just not achieving all that much. So you kind of have to pick a direction and commit to a direction, and you might have some issues down the other path. Item-wise, you get the Slayer Crown, so ward save, recruit rank for Slayer units, melee attack, melee defense. The Dragon Cloak, which gives you a ward save and wound recovery time, as well as melee defense, fire resistance. And then the Axe of Drago, which is, well, it does have the ability here for bonus versus large and armor-piercing melee damage, but I would say the main benefit, honestly, is kind of like the magical attacks, and the post-battle loot is always good to have post-battle loot. But yeah, Ungrim is just deadly in a melee situation, and you should use him as such, right? And also keep in mind, he is a Slayer, so Slayers can never have their weapon strength reduced during a battle. That usually doesn't matter as much, but with someone like him, who's single entity, he's going to be extremely difficult to take down in an actual fight, really, due to the combination of benefits that he has in battle, the skill line benefits, the item benefits, the lord effects. He is just that tricky a lord to deal with. There's certain lords which may not necessarily achieve a great deal in their campaigns when controlled by the AI, but if you encounter them in battle in the wrong position, they can absolutely cause a lot of damage to you. And Ungrim is this kind of lord, so be a bit concerned when you are dealing with Ungrim Ironfist, because he is quite capable of wrecking you up. That's all I had to say. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and I'll see you boys and girls on the next one.